You ever feel like you gave everything to someone, and in the blink of an eye, it's like you never existed in their world at all? Like the moments you shared, the words you whispered, the love you poured, none of it mattered. They smile, they laugh, they live their life, and somehow you're erased. You start questioning yourself. Was it real? Did I misread everything? Did I overreact? Or worse, did I mean nothing to them at all? That right there is emotional invalidation. And it's a slow, quiet poison to your self-worth. Emotional invalidation is more subtle than betrayal, more crushing than obvious rejection. It's the feeling of being dismissed, minimized, or outright denied when your emotions and experiences matter. It's not just about someone ignoring you, it's about someone actively making you question your reality. You're standing there raw, vulnerable, and they shrug, or worse, act as if you're being dramatic. They act like the person you were, the love you gave, the care you showed. None of it ever existed. And the worst part, when it comes from someone you trusted, someone who mattered, it hits differently. Because it's not just their opinion, it becomes your own self-doubt creeping in, whispering in your ear, making you ask, am I overreacting? Am I too sensitive? Was I really wrong to care this much? That inner voice becomes deafening over time, and without realizing it, you start doubting the very foundation of your own feelings, your own worth. You need to understand this. Your emotions are valid. Your pain is real. Your love is real. The fact that someone refuses to see that doesn't make it any less real. And yet, when someone behaves like you never meant anything, your mind starts playing tricks on you. You think, maybe I imagined it all, maybe I was a fool to trust them, maybe I wasn't enough. That spiral can keep you trapped, replaying every conversation, every memory, twisting them until you feel lost inside yourself. Here's what most people don't realize. They aren't deliberately cruel most of the time. Emotional invalidation isn't always intentional. Sometimes people are incapable of seeing what they don't want to see. Sometimes they are so wrapped up in their own lives, their own pride, their own fears, that acknowledging your reality is too uncomfortable. That doesn't excuse it. It doesn't make it okay. But understanding this helps you stop interling it as your fault. When someone erases you, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. Their inability to honor what you gave, to recognize your feelings, doesn't mean you gave in vain. It doesn't mean your love was small. It doesn't mean you are small. The first step to healing is understanding that distinction. You must separate their behavior from your value. You must start telling yourself the truth. You matter. Your emotions matter. And their inability to see it is theirs, not yours. The next step, though, is far more subtle and far more powerful. You have to reconnect with yourself. When someone acts like you never meant anything, they've shaken your sense of self. They've made you question your reality. And now the most radical act of self-preservation is remembering who you were before them. Remember how deeply you loved. Remember how courageous you were to be vulnerable. Remember the person who laughed freely, who spoke openly, who dared to feel. That version of you is still here. That version of you is still valid. Now let's be honest, healing isn't easy. It never is when someone invalidates your reality, because there's a part of you that still wants them to see you, to acknowledge what was real between you. That part of you longs for the closure that may never come. And it's painful because human beings crave validation, acknowledgement, recognition. But the truth is, no one can give you the validation you've been withholding from yourself. If you can start acknowledging your own reality, if you can start seeing your own worth without someone else's approval, you begin to reclaim the power they tried to steal from you. It starts small. Acknowledge the hurt without judgment. Sit with it. Name it. Say to yourself, I feel hurt. I feel unseen. I feel dismissed. And that's okay. My feelings are valid. It sounds simple, almost too simple to matter. But repetition rewires your brain. Slowly, what once felt like a storm, an endless loop of self-doubt, begins to lose its power. You're training yourself to see the truth of your own existence, rather than the reflection someone else gives you. And here's the thing about emotional invalidation. You are not weak for feeling it. You are not broken for being affected. You are human. You are sensitive. And those traits are strengths, not weaknesses. They allow you to connect deeply, to love profoundly, to experience life fully. People who act like you never mattered are often people who fear that depth. They fear emotions they can't manage, vulnerabilities they can't face. That fear of intimacy isn't about you, it's about them. Another part of healing is reframing the narrative. Stop telling yourself, they never valued me. Instead, start telling yourself, I valued myself enough to notice their dismissal and choose not to lose myself in it. You are reclaiming the narrative of your own life. You are the author, not the editor, of someone else's inability to honor your existence. And every time you remind yourself of this, you chip away at the power they held over you. Every time you affirm your own reality, you heal a little more. You might still have moments when memories flash, when their absence stings, when the emptiness of their disregard hits. That's normal. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Healing means feeling without surrendering your power. Healing means holding your truth firmly, even when someone else refuses to acknowledge it. And that is a skill you can master, one deliberate thought at a time. Now imagine what it feels like to stop seeking their recognition entirely, to no longer tie your sense of self to their behavior, to walk through the world knowing your existence matters, even if they act like it doesn't. That is freedom. That is self-worth restored. That is the first real step toward moving past someone who made you feel invisible. Because when you finally see that their treatment doesn't define you, when you finally feel it in your bones, nothing they do can shake your understanding of your own value. And the beauty of reclaiming your self-worth is that it transforms every part of your life. You stop bending yourself to fit someone else's inability to see you. You stop apologizing for being fully alive, fully expressive, fully human. You begin to surround yourself with people who mirror your truth, rather than challenge it. You learn that love isn't about someone else acknowledging your existence. It's about recognizing your existence and honoring it yourself. You may be wondering, how do I actually get there? How do I rebuild a self-worth that was chipped away by someone acting like I never mattered? It starts with one unwavering principle. Your feelings are never wrong. Your experiences are never wrong. Your love, your care, your attention, they were never too much. They were always exactly what they were meant to be, yours. And when you hold that truth, when you anchor yourself in that truth, the weight of someone else's invalidation begins to lift. And then comes the most liberating shift, detachment, without bitterness. You learn to observe their behavior without taking it personally. You recognize that their inability to validate you is a reflection of them, not you. You realize you no longer need permission to exist fully. You don't need them to recognize your worth to feel whole. You don't need their acknowledgement to know your love was real. You only need yourself. And that, ultimately, is where true healing begins. The moment you stop chasing validation from someone who refused to give it, the moment you stop shrinking to fit into their comfort zone, the moment you see your own existence as undeniable, that is when you start to rebuild your self-worth stronger than ever. That is when you start to reclaim the parts of yourself they tried to erase. That is when you start living as the person who always mattered, because the truth is you always did. You might feel lost right now, like the ground beneath you has shifted, and every memory of them drags you further into doubt. But here's the truth. The more you feel, the more you honor your own reality, the faster you start reclaiming yourself. Healing doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means learning to move through it without letting it define you. And the first step is to reconnect with your own voice. When someone invalidates you, you start to second-guess every thought, every feeling, every instant. You start asking, am I overreacting? Am I imagining things? Was I too much? Stop asking those questions. Start asking yourself instead, what do I feel? And then why do I feel this way? Give your emotions names. Speak them aloud. Write them down. Cry if you need to. Scream if you must. Don't silence yourself. Each time you acknowledge your feelings without judgment, You reinforce that your existence, your experience, and your love are valid. Next, you need to set boundaries. This is where many people falter. When someone acts like you never mattered, your instinct might be to chase them, plead for acknowledgement, or try to fix the broken connection. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot fix someone else's inability to see your worth. What you can do is protect your energy. You can decide who gets access to your mind, your heart, and your life. Boundaries aren't about punishing them, they're about honoring yourself. Start small. Notice the moments when their actions or words trigger self-doubt. In those moments, say to yourself, I choose not to internalize this. Step back emotionally if you have to. Limit conversations that leave you feeling invisible. Avoid situations that make you question your reality. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. They remind you that your feelings are important, and anyone unwilling to honor them does not get free access to your soul. The third step is rebuilding your narrative. When someone acted like you never mattered, they rewrote your story in their mind, and you unconsciously started believing. Reclaim it. Write your own version. Journal about the love you gave, the loyalty you offered, the patience you practiced, the courage it took to be vulnerable. Describe yourself honestly, with compassion. Celebrate the parts of yourself they ignore. This isn't about denial, it's about choosing your truth over their distortion. And here's a secret. The more vividly you reconstruct your narrative, the less power they have over your mind. Memories that once felt like chains start becoming affirmation. Moments that once left you trembling with doubt now remind you of your resilience. Every page you write, every thought you affirm, every word you speak to yourself is a brick in the foundation of your restored self-worth. Now there's a deeper, quieter step that many skip, embracing the discomfort. I am allowed to grieve. I am allowed to honor my love. Over time, self-compassion becomes a shield, not a crutch. It prevents the echoes of their dismissal from poisoning your sense of self. Another transformative step is shifting from seeking validation externally to finding it internally. You've been trained to look for acknowledgement outside of yourself, approval, recognition, affirmation from others. Emotional invalidation breaks that illusion. So start practicing internal validation. Celebrate small victories. Applaud your courage, your consistency, your growth. Say out loud, I matter, my feelings matter, my love matters. Repeat it until the words are louder than the echoes of dismissal. You also need to understand that closure rarely comes from them. Waiting for an apology, acknowledgement, or explanation can trap you in their timeline, keeping you tethered to their validation. Real closure comes from you deciding, finally, that your worth isn't dependent on their recognition. You give yourself permission to close the chapter. You honor what was real without needing anyone else to confirm it. That is empowerment. That is freedom. Healing isn't linear. You'll have days when their absence stings sharply. You'll have nights when memories replay like uninvited guests. On those days, lean on practices that restore your presence. Meditate, walk in nature, write, create, or simply breathe. Ground yourself in the here and now. Ask, what is real in this moment? Feel your own heartbeat. Remind yourself that your existence is undeniable, even if they act like it isn't. One of the most underrated steps is finding people who reflect your reality back to you. Seek relationships, friendships, and communities where your voice is heard, your feelings are validated, and your presence matters. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your existence rather than ignore it. Let their acknowledgement mirror the truth you've been cultivating internally. Connection with others who truly see you reinforces your reclaimed self-worth. And as you rebuild, you'll notice a subtle, beautiful shift. The longing for validation from the person who acted like you never mattered fades. It doesn't vanish overnight, but it diminishes because you've learned that the most important acknowledgement comes from within. Your self-worth is no longer fragile, no longer dependent, no longer negotiable. It is your anchor. It is steady, unwavering, untouchable by someone else's inability to honor your existence. Here's the radical truth. Healing is also about forgiveness, not for them, but for you. Forgiveness isn't condoning their behavior or pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is the conscious choice to stop letting their actions keep you in pain. It's deciding you will no longer carry the weight of their inability to see your worth. You forgive to release yourself, to reclaim energy, to make room for the life and love you deserve. Now imagine waking up one morning and feeling the weight lift off your chest. The memories of their dismissal no longer trigger anxiety, anger, or self-doubt. You feel lighter because you've reconnected with your truth, rebuilt your boundaries, rewritten your narrative, and practiced relentless self-compassion. You feel free because your worth is no longer in someone else's hands. It has always been in yours. And this freedom isn't just emotional, it's transformational. You start approaching relationships differently. You recognize patterns earlier. You no longer accept dismissive behavior as normal. You no longer shrink to fit someone else's comfort. You attract people who honor your existence naturally, without effort. You live in alignment with your own value, and suddenly, life feels richer, fuller, more authentic. But remember, the journey isn't just about others. It's about reconnecting with yourself in the deepest way possible. Emotional invalidation taught you how fragile self-worth can feel. Healing teaches you how unshakable it can be. Each deliberate step, each affirmation, each boundary, each moment of self-compassion is a stitch sewing together a stronger, more resilient version of you. By the time this process is complete, you'll understand something profound. No one's inability to see your worth diminishes it. No act of dismissal erases your existence. Your love, your care, your presence, and your life, your heart, your self-worth. They are yours to honor, protect, and celebrate. Even after you've begun to heal, you might catch yourself replaying the past. Thoughts of them sneak into your mind when you least expect it. You might wonder, what if I had done things differently? Or do they even think about me? That pull, that subtle tug of attachment, is normal. Your brain is wired to seek closure, to crave the familiar, even if that familiar hurt you. But here's the thing. Lingering attachment is the final obstacle between you and complete freedom. And overcoming it is not about erasing memories. It's about transforming the way they influence you. You've already started reclaiming your self-worth. But now you need to reclaim your emotional power. This is the stage where the real magic happens. Emotional power isn't about controlling someone else. It's about taking responsibility for how you let experiences affect you. It's about refusing to let the echoes of someone's dismissal dictate your feelings, your choices, or your self-perception. Every time you catch yourself longing for their validation, you redirect that energy inward. You remind yourself, my value is not in their recognition. My love is not wasted because I gave it sincerely. My presence is undeniable. And here's a subtle shift that changes everything. Detachment without resentment. You can let go of someone without hating them. You can release the need for their acknowledgement without diminishing your own experience. Detachment isn't cold or indifferent. It's a conscious choice to stop giving someone power over your emotions. Imagine holding a weight in your hand for years. Detachment is setting it down without shoving it at them. You don't need closure from them. You give it to yourself. But detachment doesn't come automatically. It requires a deliberate rewiring of your mind. Every time memories surface, instead of reliving the pain, pause and ask, what is real right now? Feel your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own presence. Anchor yourself in your reality, rather than the distorted version they presented. Over time, this practice trains your mind to respond to triggers with awareness instead of reaction, with choice instead of compulsion. You may also notice a deeper truth emerging. You were drawn to them, not because they were right for you, but because their inability to see your worth mirrored something inside you. You may have tolerated behaviors that invalidated you because you hadn't yet fully learned to honor your own reality. Recognizing this isn't shameful. It's enlightening. It's proof that every painful experience was also a teacher, guiding you to understand your boundaries, your values, and your non-negotiables. And now, with self-worth rebuilt, emotional power reclaimed, and detachment growing stronger, you start to see life through a different lens. You notice the subtle ways you used to shrink to fit others' expectations, how you muted your feelings to avoid dismissal, how you denied your own needs to maintain connection. Awareness is liberation. Every pattern you recognize is a chance to break. Every habit you identify is an opportunity to choose differently. Here's another key: preparing for authentic relationships. When someone invalidated you, when you honor yourself fully, when your worth is anchored within, the people who belong in your life are drawn to that energy. They will reflect back the respect, love, and acknowledgement you've cultivated internally. It's almost effortless because you've done the inner work first. Letting go also means embracing your own timeline. You might be tempted to compare your healing journey to others or to rush the process. Don't. Emotional recovery has no schedule. Each moment of self-compassion, each boundary you uphold, each affirmation you speak aloud compounds over time. You are building resilience, depth, and clarity, qualities that cannot be rushed. Celebrate every small victory, a day without longing, a moment of self-recognition, a boundary you enforce with confidence. These victories are proof that you are moving forward, steadily reclaiming your emotional autonomy. And as you continue this journey, you start noticing something profound. You begin to redefine love itself. Love is no longer about needing someone to validate your existence. Love becomes a shared celebration of two complete individuals, each honoring themselves and each other. You no longer fear being invisible, because you have seen your own light. You no longer tolerate dismissal, because you have felt your own worth. And in this clarity, you recognize that the love you once gave away blindly now has a standard, a benchmark of respect, acknowledgement, and authenticity. But the final layer of transformation is subtle and internal. You learn to embrace your own presence unapologetically. You walk into a room, knowing that your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions are real. You speak your truth without fearing dismissal. You express your love without needing reciprocation to feel fulfilled. And most importantly, you honor the fact that you existed fully, loved fully, and cared deeply, even when someone else acted like it never mattered. This is the ultimate shift. You stop framing your past through their behavior and start framing it through your growth. You see that every moment of dismissal, every act of invalidation, every time they acted like you never existed, taught you how to anchor your worth in yourself. You see that the pain, though intense, became a catalyst for empowerment. And suddenly the narrative flips. You no longer ask, "Did I matter?" You declare, "I always mattered, I still matter, and I will always matter." You may still carry echoes of hurt, but they no longer define you. They become reminders, evidence of the resilience, courage, and depth you possess. You no longer fear invisibility, because you've become visible to yourself. You no longer chase acknowledgement, because you've mastered self-recognition. You no longer shrink to fit others' expectations, because you've learned to expand into your full presence. And with that presence comes freedom. Freedom to choose relationships that honor you. Freedom to walk away from people who diminish you. Freedom to love deeply without losing yourself. Freedom to embrace life fully, knowing that no one's perception of your worth has the power to undo the value you've reclaimed. You are no longer tethered to someone else's inability to see your existence. You are no longer chained by their dismissal, their neglect, their failure to acknowledge your reality. You are free because you've taken back your emotional power, because you've healed your self-worth, because you've learned to validate yourself above all else. And in this freedom, you find the ultimate truth. You were never defined by their perception. You were defined by your courage to feel, your capacity to love, your willingness to honor your own reality. You were always enough, you always mattered, and now, finally, you see it clearly. By now, you've walked through the pain, faced the invalidation, reclaimed your worth, and even learned to detach from someone who made you feel invisible. But the final step isn't just about detachment or boundaries. It's about fully embodying the truth of your own value. It's about letting all the lessons sink deep into the core of who you are so that no one ever again can make you question your existence. The first layer of this final transformation is self-trust. Emotional invalidation eroded it. You doubted your instincts, your feelings, your reactions. You questioned yourself in ways that felt unbearable. But now, you have the tools to rebuild that trust. When a feeling arises, you no longer immediately discount it. When a choice needs to be made, you no longer seek external permission to decide. When someone acts dismissive, you no longer automatically internalize it. You trust yourself. You trust your reality. You trust the wisdom that comes from living, feeling, and reflecting. Self-trust is radical because it flips the script entirely. Where once you looked outside for validation, now you look within. You become the authority on your own life. And there's a liberation in that authority, a liberation so profound that even if someone tries to diminish you, their words fall flat. They no longer carry weight because the gravity of your own self-awareness anchors you. Next, you embrace emotional sovereignty. This isn't just a fancy term, it's the lived experience of knowing that you are the gatekeeper of your emotional world. Someone can act like you never mattered, but you have the power to decide how that affects you. You can feel the hurt without letting it define your future. You can acknowledge the dismissal without allowing it to erode your confidence. Emotional sovereignty means that while life will always present challenges, your core self remains intact, resilient and untouchable. Part of this journey involves celebrating your growth. Think about the person you were before all this. You gave without question, you loved without limits, and you trusted too easily. Each of those traits is beautiful, but they were often misunderstood or dismissed. Now look at who you are after the healing. You still love deeply, but with awareness. You still give generously, but with boundaries. You still trust, but with discernment. Every scar, every tear, every heartbreak has been transformed into wisdom, strength, and clarity. Celebrate it, own it, wear it like armor that is also a crown. And as you solidify your sense of self, you step into freedom from attachment to outcomes. In the past, the pain of invalidation left you clinging to memories, to explanations, to closure that may never come. Now you see that freedom isn't in them changing or acknowledging the past. It's in you claiming your present and shaping your future. You no longer need anyone else to define your reality. You no longer rely on someone else's recognition to feel fulfilled. Your life, your love, your worth, all of it is yours to fully inhabit. This freedom is profound because it allows you to love without fear. Love is no longer a source of anxiety or self-doubt. Love becomes an expression of abundance rather than a transaction of validation. You can enter relationships with open eyes and an open heart, recognizing red flags, honoring boundaries, and embracing connections that respect your presence. You love not because you need to be seen, but because you are fully seen by yourself. That is power. That is peace. That is liberation. And here's the ultimate truth about someone acting like you never mattered. Their behavior was never about you, it was about them. Once you internalize this truth fully, their past dismissal loses all ability to haunt you. It becomes a story you tell yourself to mark growth, not a wound that defines your identity. You see clearly that the love, care, and attention you gave were always yours to give, and they were valid every single time. You are no longer asking, "Did I matter?" You simply know, "I always did. I always will." Now you integrate all aspects of your healing into a single unstoppable sense of self. You carry boundaries like a natural extension of your being. You carry self-compassion like oxygen, sustaining every action and thought. You carry self-trust and emotional sovereignty like a shield that protects your inner world. Every interaction, every relationship, every moment is now navigated through the lens of your restored power. You don't shrink. You don't chase, you don't bend. You simply exist fully, authentically, unapologetically. And with that presence comes magnetic clarity. People around you sense it, even if you don't announce it. Your energy signals self-respect, awareness, and emotional maturity. You attract connections that are healthy, reciprocal, and validating. Not by force, but by alignment. You radiate the truth that you are whole, complete, and untouchable by someone else's dismissal. You become proof that healing from emotional invalidation doesn't just repair, it transforms. Finally, this journey equips you with unshakable resilience. Life will always have moments of rejection, disappointment, and dismissal, but now you've practiced navigating those moments internally first. You've learned that no external behavior can erase your worth. You've cultivated tools to reclaim your narrative, protect your energy, and honor your reality. You've transformed vulnerability into strength and pain into wisdom. You are resilient because you've faced erasure and emerged more visible to yourself than ever before. And so you live. You move forward not with fear of being invalidated again, but with confidence that your reality is yours to define. You no longer wait for acknowledgement, you give it to yourself. You no longer doubt your feelings, you validate. You no longer allow someone else's inability to see you dictate your self-worth. You embody it, radiate it, and carry it like an unbreakable truth. Every time you look in the mirror, every time you recall the past, every time someone tests your boundaries, you remember this. You were never too much, never invisible, never insignificant. You mattered then, you matter now, and you will matter. The love you gave, the emotions you felt, the courage you showed, all of it is woven into the person you've become. A person who is whole, empowered, and unshakable. And that is the freedom that comes from healing after emotional invalidation. That is the clarity that emerges when you reclaim your self-worth. That is the peace that fills your life when you realize no one else's perception can diminish the truth of your existence. You are whole, you are worthy, you are undeniable, and you will never again allow anyone to act like you never meant anything.